How to get rich wholesaling real estate in 2022. Guys, it's Rick Ginn here with Flip with Rick, and we're going to talk about how to get rich by using wholesaling as your starting vehicle. And I'm going to show you my path I've used to create massive amounts of wealth, and it's easily duplicatable by you. But listen, before we get started, do me a favor, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button to continue to receive the absolute best information on wholesaling available today. So, you want to get rich wholesaling? Great. 2022 is the perfect opportunity for you to do it. So, I'm going to break down in 4 easy steps on how to utilize wholesaling to become massively rich in 2022. So, number 1, let's talk about wholesaling. The first thing you got to do is learn how to get started in wholesaling. So, the easiest way, in my opinion, is go to freewholesaling.com, where I have 20 years laid out of a course between myself and Zach, and we show you step by step how to get started in wholesaling. It's all laid out for you, and it doesn't cost you a dime, and you're crazy if you don't take advantage of this opportunity. I've been doing this for 20 years, and it's easily duplicatable. So here's the secret to it. Number 1, you've got to learn it. So if you're like me and you get a free course from someone who knows what they're doing, you need to deep dive in that course and you need to go all in. You need to look at the whole thing and get started. The good thing is you don't need to know everything in wholesaling and get started. It's actually the opposite of what you learned in schools. Go ahead, learn the business, freewholesaling.com. That's how we get started. The second thing you must understand in wholesaling is you have to take as much action, if not more action, than you actually do in the education. The people who suffer the most in wholesaling, meaning they don't make it or they don't get started, is they spend so much time educating themselves, they ignore the action steps. I'm telling you right now, if you just educate yourself and learn and you never do anything, it's useless information. Action will allow you to learn the business and use the education, and you will learn from some trial and error. People who don't want to do the action, too scared to move forward, and that becomes a problem. So understanding, knowing you have to take a ton of action in wholesaling. Without action, education is just an academic skill, and it's not going to help you. I actually prefer you take more action and probably a little bit less education, but if you put them both together, you can do amazing things in wholesaling. The next thing you need to understand about wholesaling is you have to be extremely persistent. The number one common trait that I see over and over on everybody, on all the channels we connect with everyone, is they get discouraged or something doesn't go all right, and then they question, why am I doing wholesaling? Now, if you know what your why is, and if you don't know what your why is, go to freewholesaling.com. I explain the whole thing to you. If you have a solid why on why you're doing wholesaling, it will get you through the dark days. There will be days you don't feel like doing it. There'll be days where it didn't work out, somebody chewed you out, a deal fell apart. The key to moving forward in wholesaling is being persistent and never giving up. If you get through the persistent part, amazing things will happen. If you give up when you have any type of resistance, you were never meant to be doing wholesaling. Guys, persistence is the key. And after we do persistence, the final step of wholesaling is you have to be super consistent. So once you get the persistency down, then you got to be like a machine and keep going, especially on the marketing side. You have to commit to a marketing budget and a marketing plan, and you, yourself or your partner, has to hold you accountable. So once you get the persistency done, which means I'm going to get through any type of roadblock, then you're going to be consistent. And those two go hand in hand. It is absolutely key to be successful in wholesaling. Guys, wholesaling is, to me, the greatest way to accumulate a lot of income with the least amount of risk. And you don't need to have years and years of knowledge to do it. That's why wholesaling is the key to becoming rich in 2022. But it doesn't stop there. I told you I'm going to give you 4 steps. So number 1 is wholesaling. Go to freewholesaling.com, learn it, use it, take the actions, be persistent, be consistent, and amazing things will happen in your life. So now that you have this high income profession, you need to go to step 2. You need to turn that income into assets that produce, pay, and grow for you and your family for the rest of your life. So before we get started, number 2, on assets, we need to understand what an asset is. Okay. An asset is anything that pays you where money goes in your pocket. A lot of times, if you buy something and it goes up in value, or it pays you maybe a dividend, maybe it pays you a monthly distribution, then that is an asset, which means it's valuable to you and it's growing over time. Those are the things that you want. The other side of the equation is a liability. A liability is something that you pay for that you get no other financial benefit from it. And it usually doesn't pay you at all, and it goes down in value. These are going to be boats, cars, you name it, sometimes even real estate to a certain point. But you need to concentrate on everything you buy going forward, and you want to buy as many assets as possible. Guys, you're going to make a ton of money in wholesaling. You have to convert that, because wholesaling is a job. It is work. And even though I do love it, you need to take that money and buy assets so you can grow your net worth, and then you don't come reliant on having to run the wholesaling business every day. And it will happen over time if you stick to it. So let's talk about the different types of assets. So number one, we need to understand what asset classes are. And there's some old traditional asset classes. I know I'm going to bore you with this, but number one is going to be equities. Equities is just when you own a piece of a company like a stock, and it grows over time. It can pay you a dividend yield. And in the long run, usually when you buy these, they go up in value and your net worth grows. You can buy different types of bonds, although they're low yield, but they're very, very safe. You can invest in gold, precious metals. They usually go up in value over time. But the one thing I want you to understand in all these things I'm talking about is they are what they are, and you have almost zero influence in their value, meaning they are passive in nature, which means the only decision to make is when you buy it and sell it. That is it. And I will tell you, it is a wonderful feeling. Now, there is a new emerging asset class called other assets, also known as like digital currencies. And that's one you can buy too. Once again, you do not control the value of it if it goes up and down. All these are considered what I call passive income. And the beauty of them is you don't have to think about it too much. You buy it, and if you're a long-term investor like myself, you buy it, you have a plan if it's 3, 5, or 10 years, and you put it away, and then you buy more assets in these classes when they become discounted when the market's down. I love this technique because it does not require a ton of my time. I just have to have an investing plan and strategy, and that's what I advise you do with your wholesaling money. Other types of assets, which we can't overlook, are going to be like real estate. I love real estate. I'm going to be honest with you. When you're talking about collecting real estate, people have to understand there is a cost that comes with it. So when you buy a piece of real estate, it is a non-passive income, meaning it's going to require your work. Now, you're probably saying, hey, Rick, I got a property manager. It's no big deal. You will have to manage your property manager, and he or she, you're going to have to stay on top of them, make sure you get reports, cash flows, update on renters, costs, all that other fun stuff. And there is no way you buy a piece of rental properties or a portfolio and walk away from it. The other benefit of buying real estate is you get depreciation. And accountants love to talk about this. Depreciation just basically means you're able to write off a portion of that asset every year to offset income on your books. Sounds great, right? It's awesome. The problem is in the long term, you eventually have to recapture that depreciation, so you're kicking the can down the road. And number two, what's your time worth? I had up to 26 rentals at one point, and it's just a lot of work even with a property manager. And sometimes, in my opinion, it's easier just to pay your taxes and move forward with your money, because what is your time worth at the end of the day? I'm not a huge fan of rentals. I do have rentals, but I cherry pick the ones I want with the least amount of hassle because it is a lot of work. So other types of non-passive income, everybody goes, oh, Airbnbs. Listen, I'm not knocking Airbnbs, but they are a step up from a rental because they have a hotel management aspect to it, and they have an extra layer of tax reporting on it for your state sales tax. Most Airbnbs charge sales tax, and there's constant cleanup fees. People have high expectations. You got to monitor reviews. You got to check people in, check out. Guys, People like Airbnb because it pushes the numbers and you get a higher ROI, but people often overlook what the management of an Airbnb is. And if you're doing it in yourself and you're not calculating in that, you have to keep that same intensity all the way through an Airbnb to keep that asset running correctly. For that reason, I'm not the biggest fan of Airbnb because I've stayed in them, I've done Airbnbs, and I find them to be a lot of work. They are a huge step up from a regular rental because they're temporary renters, typically on vacation, and there is a lot of stuff to pay attention to. Another form of non-passive asset classes you can buy into, you can actually buy a business. And I've done this before. I thought I could buy cash flow, and I learned the hard way that unless it is your bread and butter business, like real estate, like I do wholesaling, it actually becomes a very high-paying job because it's going to require you to be built in unless you have a CEO, a CFO, a COO, and they're all built into the company. Outside of wholesaling, I'm not an expert, and I try to stick to the areas that I'm really good. And for that reason, I'm explaining non-passive types of income for you on these asset classes so you can make a determination. Understanding all investments have risk. You need to have a strategy for them. I just prefer to pick one that I can buy, put it away, and look back at it in 5 years and not go through that rat race of looking at it every day. It's up to you. I'm not knocking rentals, but make sure you understand what you're getting into rentals because they do require work. Now, guys, keep in mind, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not giving you tax advice. These are strategies I'm sharing with you that have worked for me becoming ultra successful through wholesaling. We've talked about wholesaling. We've talked about different types of asset classes. The next rule, which is going to help you out a ton, is you got to understand if you can put this basic rule in place, you'll do amazing things. And unfortunately, I learned this the hard way. I call it the 20% rule. It's real simple. Take 20% of your income, and that's what you live off. End of story. If you follow that pattern and make a sacrifice from anywhere from 3 to 10 years, I know 10 years sounds extreme, you will have plenty of money to invest in these assets from your income and wholesaling. Let me explain how this works for you. Right off the bat, if you guys know, is you're going to pay roughly 40% in taxes. Rick, I'm not in that tax bracket. I'm just telling you, in general, by the time you pay all your gas tax, sales tax, your federal tax, your state tax, on average, 40 cents to every dollar is going to Uncle Sam. Maybe it's a little bit lower, whatever. Hopefully, I've over-exaggerated the numbers so that leaves you just extra money to put back in yourself. The second part is the 20%. That's what you're going to live off of. Now, I know that sounds extreme to go, Rick, well, if I only make $80,000, that means I can live off $16,000. You know how you fix that? You make more wholesaling income. If you made $300,000 off wholesaling in year one, which is extremely plausible, that gives you $60,000 to live off. That should be enough to pay your mortgage, pay the rent, pay utilities, and get groceries. Okay? So that 20%, if you learn it early in the game, when you make millions or you make $800,000 and you live that 20%, you will never go broke in life. You know why? Because your net worth keeps growing and you invest in it, which leads to the other 40%, which is the money you're going to use to either invest in your business or invest in asset classes to keep everything growing. That 20% rule is a game changer in becoming wealthy through wholesaling real estate in 2022. Now, let's talk about the final piece of the equation here. Let's talk about taxes. We all have to pay taxes. There's no way around it. We're going to pay taxes. You need to understand the United States government has basically a scale you pay taxes on, and it's really straightforward. I'm going to read off what the tax scaling is, and I want you to understand this. Basically, anything 40K and below, you pay roughly 12% in taxes. And I know most people are above that, but that's a majority of people who file their taxes, okay? The taxes after that are going to go from 22% when you go up to 86,000, and that covers 86,000 to I think 164,000. That's right, I'm reading off of this. 22% is up to 86,000, and 24% goes to 164K. And then where you really start getting paying the taxes is anything around the $200,000 range. And I'm paraphrasing here, but 32, 35, and I believe 37% once you go over 523,000. Why do I say this? Because you need to understand what tax bracket you fall in, because so many of us are taught how to save money on tax, and we get in the wholesaling, when we get in these bigger tax brackets, we don't understand how it works. I have good news for you. There's a ton of techniques. If you set up your own entity, please seek legal and financial advice before you do this. But if I recommend setting up an LLC under an S corporation is the simple format. And from there, you can do certain designations. Once again, I'm not a financial planner, but I take full advantages of SEPs. A SEP is a simplified employee plan that allows you to set aside 25% of your payroll to invest in whatever asset class you want. You can do stocks, you can do bonds, you can do precious metals, you can do digital currency. It doesn't matter. You're allowed to write off up to $61,000 a year. Okay, it doesn't stop there. You can set up an IRA, and basically you get up to $7,000 a year. And why you do this, it lowers your taxable income. You can also set up an HSA, which is a health savings account, to offset your deductibles, copays. Anything that you can write off before tax dollars is phenomenal, because once you get on the other side, you have to pay with after tax, and that's where you lose a lot of your buying power. The key here is, guys, is understanding your tax bracket. It took me a long time to wrap my head around this, but like once you start making significant money, don't worry about it. Most people wind up in the payroll of under 140 grand, and you can do a ton of write-offs to really get your tax bracket down legally. And also it's forcing you to save for the future, not save, invest. And as you invest, your net worth grows, your assets grow, and this is how you become very rich in 2022 using wholesaling. Yes, you're going to use wholesaling to produce that income, but we have to turn that income into producing assets. And as we produce assets, we will then understand our tax bracket. And once you understand how to utilize your tax bracket to your advantage, you stick to that 20% rule. Guys, it's not hard to become rich in 2022 by using wholesaling. All you have to do is use these 4 steps, and amazing things will happen in your life. Guys, you tell me, are you becoming rich in wholesaling by using wholesaling, by buying income producing assets? Are you using the 20% rule? Guys, tell me what you think. Are you becoming rich through wholesaling by actually using wholesaling to buy income producing assets, living by that 20% rule, and fully understanding how your tax bracket works? Guys, let me know in the comments. And there's no reason you guys can't use this exact same strategy to get above and beyond where me and Zach are at. Guys, this is Rick Ginn with Flip with Rick, and I'll see you in the next video.